Alright, welcome back YouTube. Starting another project. Impala that restored. Still got some work to go. All aside that, we're taking the air suspension or the air ride via our air, if I remember right, the dual pump. We're going to run a single tank. This is something we bought from Hoppo's. Actually came off another car of his, and we're putting it on the 1965 Impala. We're going to be taking all the bags, all the lines, rewiring the new switch panel. We're going to be removing all the suspension, the factory, and putting, this is the start of it, putting the air ride, setting this all up. I'm going to probably redo those mounts and get her all looking pretty under here. Maybe give it a quite slick coat of black Rust-Oleum paint. Take off the air shocks. So this is where we're starting. Bear with me and kind of walk you through all this, but we're going to start simply by compressing these with a spring compressor tool. We're going to remove all the springs. I've already removed the front shocks, 2 bolts on the bottom, 1 bolt straight up at the top from under the hood. There's 1 9/16 bolt, and then the whole shock pops out both sides, same thing. In the rear, pretty simple. These air shocks, we're going to remove the mount there, and then you got 2 1/2-inch bolts up high there and there, and that's the same on both sides. And then you got your one, I think that's a 11/16 if I recall right. So we'll start there, remove all this, and then resume back to video. All right, back at it. All air shocks and front shocks and everything. The ringers, the springs I threw out in the dumpster already. Okay. This is right here. I get some light in there. Shed a light on me. Anyway, this bag is kind of set up with the metal piece that slides in there. About the only thing you really need to do is penetrate through the floor of the trunk. And it's got to be a big enough hole for this bad boy right here. Okay. After this is through, the best thing I could tell you is if you can fit a piece of tubing, like old radiator hose or something around this as a sleeve, you're going to save yourself a headache later from it rubbing. And the other thing is we're going to find or make like a metal washer that holds this thing, and you tighten the nut down and it holds this whole cup assembly in place. You don't really want it loose because it will pop out. The bottom does bolt on, and I have the old brackets somewhere here. Okay, these I cut off the old hardware because it just simply wouldn't work with this assembly. I am going to turn this sideways and kind of fab up this metal where it's kind of angled, something similar to that right there. And then we're going to kind of clean it up. I'm going to shorten this side up. Keep in mind the height of the rear end. You don't want it dragging on the ground if you have an airline problem. So try to keep it where it'll at least baby home if need be. And why I'm doing it sideways is so that the hardware is removable once this is all welded on. You don't want to be stuck where you can't take it apart. So there you go. Bear with me. We're going to do the back first, and then we'll work our way to the front in a minute. After quick cleaning on my screen, looking like I had a booger on there, man. Couldn't even see through there and stuff. All right, we simply setting up before I mount these back airbags, front airbags, all that. I'm gonna pop those front springs out in a second. Shocks are already out. I like these little clamps right here, Amazon in. Run them about every 2 feet and make sure that this don't move around and hit any exhaust manifolds or rub against anywhere. And also where you penetrate your holes, definitely wrap in rubber, like an old radiator line or something like that. We're running both lines. Throw a couple clamps on this bad boy too. I'm going to end up running the switch panel wiring adjacent, or my fancy word, next to this line all the way backing up and through the same holes. And that will keep everything kind of sequential, clean looking. So I'll go ahead and pause up, get these things all mounted up, and I'm going to run the positive wire. I like to run a spare battery in the back, in the trunk, when it comes to these air ride. It definitely makes the electric motors, especially when you have two of them, kick a lot faster. And very common for me to use like a 50, 60 amp breaker to go to the back to the other battery. But we're going to keep our bend nice and soft. You don't want to kink this line. It's not very strong per se. But anyway, we'll go ahead and get this all zipped into the frame and nice and tight. And I'll show you what it ends up like. And we'll work on our airbags right after. Alright, we ran, this is our airline, and right next to it is our switch box wiring. We're going to use the one hole for everything. This will be getting clamped as a final as soon as we get everything slid in place. And over on this side, I've got a 10 gauge wire, which will be on a 30 to a 50 amp breaker. And that's going to run up to the front battery. We're going to make sure that this stays away from exhaust and everything else. Beside that, yeah, nice and clamped, zip ties everywhere. Got a zip tie holding on the front left wheel. No, but anyway, a whole bunch of clamping. Just make sure you're clear of any movement, penetration, rubbing, any of that. And then I'll show you at the end what I did with the penetration, the final. Like I say, you wrap it in rubber, zip tie it up, it'll be good. And I like to keep it kind of clean, so I'm going to use the same hole for everything. And we'll go from there. So bear with me for a minute, and we'll keep on going. Actually, while I'm at it, I left myself about 3 foot of this 1/2 inch line. Put a new cut in there, and this piece right here gets a nut. We're going to be putting a fat washer on there. And at the end, this little hole right here, we're going to have a large washer right in there, and it's going to hold that nice and tight upward. Bottom side, we're going to re-weld on a new mount because I didn't like anything to do with the old one. It would not have worked. So we'll set that all up, and then I don't want to jump around too much, so we'll do this first before I jump on the front one. Bear with us. Bear with us. All right, now we're kind of set up. We got all 4 airlines basically in place. And there is our switch box wire. This is a 9 wire. So 4 down, 4 up, and 1 supply power to the box. Now we got our battery wire, which we're probably going to mount a battery somewhere, maybe mount it on the side. And you want to make sure that you mount that battery. It ain't bouncing around. You can't lose nothing when you have air or hydraulics. Don't be the fool, man. Don't be the fool. Okay, so we'll continue this tomorrow, man. My old ass is getting tired. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for the night. And we got our airbags simply sitting in place. We're going to suck them up tight. See where our lines go through. Throw a couple more clamps on everything. We'll button it up when we get all wrapped up. Double bag in the rear. We're going to have our single bag in the front. And I'm going to go ahead and run that wire maybe along the fender or water line or something. Just up here, but I'm going to set a breaker. Some sort of a 12 volt breaker. Like a 30 to a 50 amp. Just to charge that battery in the back. And then as you do these, like I said, don't kink them real tight. This is the switch box wire, which I went ahead and ran underneath. So it's running the same place as the other is, to the back anyway. One little hole through the firewall, and we're going to call it good. Try to keep it simple. Don't mind this thing's a little dirty. Other than that, bear with us, and we'll continue on tomorrow. Alright, we are back at it. Live! And so, I got to stop playing music because they won't let me monetize my channel if I got other people's music on it. Okay, I simply hard piped all this stuff, took out the plastic with all the T's and all the loose stuff bouncing around. We just put hard pipe, 1/2 inch size nipples to everything, broke it up. We got our 4 dumps and pumps. Okay, this would be to one wheel, another wheel, another wheel, another wheel. We're going to go ahead and tie everything in if I get my light in there. We got our switch panel wiring. I got this black wire for charging the positive on the battery, which we'll be mounting here. I thought about using a jump box. It'd be really funny, but I don't think my buddy would be happy with me. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and mount this thing up here. probably at an angle, make everything sequential and fit nicely. So bear with me, and then we'll mount the pumps on the sides or wherever they'll fit nice is what I'm after. So yeah, I'm gonna get a tripod. I know, guys, trust me. I'm gonna make it happen, Captain. Bear with me. All right, noisy old SOB. We mounted our battery there, 3/8 volts. Our bracket through the handle. This thing can't go anywhere. Pumps are live now. They are triggered by a pressure switch on the bottom. Now this right here is a fused outlet that will go to the switch box. So if anything shorts out, boom, cuts off. We're good to go. So bear with me a minute. Get the rest of this tied up. All right, now we're playing around. Figured out which lines went to the rears and which lines went to the fronts. All the solenoids for dumps and pumps are in place. This wire right here, I'm going to start wiring up to all the we got one power wire, and then we got a couple, one per dump valve and pump valve, whatever you want to call them. Set up, powered up. I put one drop of Loctite on some of this stuff sometimes just to keep everything locked in place. Not hard to get off, but make sure it don't unspin. Clamp down all your wiring. And next thing's next, we're going to go ahead and hit up the wiring. This is already pumped up and ready to go. We got to weld a couple brackets on the bottom of the lower rear airbags to make them fit in place. One thing I like to do though, I'm going to put the wheels back on. I'm going to drop it all the way down, see where it lands. One big thing for me is to make sure that if we blow an airline, this thing can still drive home. Even if it's low, we got to make that happen. Okay. Now, the only thing I had laying around was a 40 amp breaker. Nothing fancy. Wish I could have gone about a 60 or maybe 80, but this will work just fine as long as both batteries maintain charged. Don't mind the prison cell power pack right here. Yeah, that's what's up. Anyway, it's got a slow draw. It sits for a month, it will die. But with 2 batteries, it might go a little longer. So, all in tip, we did pop our switch box wire through the firewall. Throw a couple zip ties and make sure it don't vibrate around and rub. But that is fused as well. I like to fuse everything. So, there you go. Bear with me. On to the next thing. All right, top of the morning to you. We are now removing the front springs and simply going to pop that cotter pin, remove or bring this bolt down to the last few threads, give it a whack maybe from the side or the back side, whatever. Bust it loose. Then install the actual airbag. And like I said, just kind of make sure you got a good adjustment. So if you ever lose an airline, this thing won't drag on the ground trying to... Just got to be able to drive it home, even if it's low and slow. Make that possible. And on the back airbags, you know, I was going to try getting that nut up top, but it's a really funky fit in there. So what I did is tacked up a little bracket just to hold it up in place. There's no pressure really on this. It's just a placement mount. We are going to be putting a brand new frame under this thing actually pretty quick here. So this is just temporary to get it going. And then I got to find the height on this. So the same deal as the front. We want to at least keep ourselves at least maybe 1.5 inches below that muffler right there. So realistically, this thing could probably be this low to the ground. So there it be. We got that top set up, airbag all hooked up and everything too. We're gonna go ahead and get this piece developed, made, whatever. And I'm gonna use these stands to find my height. So this should go pretty easy. Bear with us a minute, we'll make this happen. All right, here we go, on to the next section. I'm actually doing the under the dash here. Got the wiring loose and set up, ready for installing the switch panel. What I'm doing is from the back. I actually made a list of every single wire, and do notice one has a black stripe, one is a solid purple, one's a solid, or black stripe, one's a solid. There's two of each color. One will be striped and one won't. This is most common on a 9-wire setup for air ride or hydraulics. Now the blue wire is a positive 12 volt. Every wire to this will be a positive, but this is the only positive that's always live, which I fuse in the trunk. If there's ever a problem, it can short out. It's only got a 20 amp fuse. Okay, now that being said, to make 2 air dump valves go up, you basically need a 2-way switch. If you wanted all 4, you'd need 4 of them across the center, which would have 12 pins. But I'm going to keep this simple, short and sweet. We're going to wire up these. The 12 volt goes to the center. Now when you click it down, it'll go the opposite end. It'll trigger the positive out here and then die. Trigger this, it triggers a positive here and then dies when you let off. But anyway, we're going to just make a little bunch of these that jump between. We're just starting for the rear one right now, and down the road I can kind of show you how to divide these each individually, and you can do anything you want. You can make like 16 switches or whatever you want to do. But me, I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm going to start right here and simply do it like this, and then start jumping across all the switches, and then we'll jump in the trunk in a minute and go ahead and make that happen too. Bear with me, I'll get some of this wired up and then I'll show you exactly what I have going. Alright, here we are, and I should have actually took a picture a minute ago. Anyway, this center bolt hole on the bottom of the bag actually went to a factory hole on the control arm, the lower control arm. The top side is all mounted. Did give it a slight tack to hold the cup tight in the position where it's not going to rub on everything. Simply putting the wheels back on now. And about the last thing left we really got to do is wire a couple wires on the switch panel. Now this is temporary. We're actually going to be putting a brand new frame on this. Top side fits nice and tight in the cup. Bottom side, a couple simple tacks, man, nothing pretty. Like I said, this is all temporary because we are going to actually be putting a brand new frame and all new gear under this thing next month. But yeah, just to get it going and everything, situate that. Kid finishing slapping on the Daytons, and yeah, like the only thing I could think left that this car is going to need after that frame and everything is the interior, which is coming, and it'll have brand new motor, the whole 9. I'm going to be making a whole nother video on this thing, a whole nother setup, and yeah, just follow, you'll see. Well, that's our install, kind of. So now what I need to do is cut into this wiring, and I'm simply going to show you how that works. I know I showed the toggle switch setup a second ago, but this right here is going to conclude kind of the final of everything to do with this. Got my dog up in here wiring up this air ride. Come on, Copper, your fat fingers ain't grabbing the book connectors very well. Can you crimp them couple black wires for me? Alright, playing around with it, we just got it off the lift, which it was too low. Well, here is our ground clearance, and I will crap you not, the mufflers are like an inch off the ground. Squish a quarter with this piece. Yeah, looking good though. I think the front end I would like to maybe modify by about an inch. But it is nice to keep that a hair high for steering purpose. There you go, gentlemen. Alright, always makes me feel good at the final section of the video. Okay, we're all the way dumped right now. Now I'm going to give you a demonstration. We put in 4 switches, front, back, side, side. And don't mind the air's hitting. The pumps go almost immediately. It's got a really small air tank, just a single air tank. Basic setup, not meant for anything fancy, but cruising. Simple stuff, so bear with me. We're gonna go ahead, we got our front, and back, sorry. And then you got both dumps, you got. Now the rear dumps slower than the front. But left, right, you got everything. Yeah, she's working. I like it.